Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Jazz, or V, whatever you like to call me, and I finally cut my hair. Yeah, it's been long overdue. I did it today. I'm leaving for Vienna tomorrow. It is April, my birthday month, but before we get into all of this, we have to talk about the books I read in March, which, honestly, I've been very much in a reading slump. If you watched my vlog from last week, yeah, I talked about that en masse. I think at every update I was like, oh, I'm kind of in a reading slump, and yeah, that's the situation. Nevertheless, I read 5 books. I finished 5 books. I actually read more because I also started reading How Long Till Black Future Month by N.K. Jemisin, and I read like half of that book before I kind of like soft DNF'd it. I will definitely continue reading it, but I was just so done with reading short stories. Like, that's a crazy thing for me to say, considering I love short story collections. But anywho, that's the situation, and I will talk to you about the 5 books I've actually finished. And it was actually a good reading month, I will not lie. I've had some very good books that I read. There may have been a 5-star read, and I may or may not have finally finished a book that I've been reading for 3 whole months. So let's get into it. Alright, so the first book I read is actually quite uninteresting for all of us, and also for me in a way, but I read Kampf Anerkennung by Axel Honneth, and I read this for my thesis. As you can see, I did my due diligence, I annotated it, and I read it for my master thesis. And yeah, what can I say about this book? It was like, at the beginning I was struggling, but then I really got into it. I really love the theory that he's actually talking about. So basically, this is a social theory on how do you feel recognized in your community or in your nation or in the world, like generally as a human, how do you feel you are being recognized? So it's the fight for recognition, and he says there's like 3 ways of how recognition has to be done for you as a person to feel that your presence is important, valued, and makes sense, you know. And those are that you need to be recognized lawfully, so the laws need to recognize your situation and protect you. So for example, laws for trans individuals, that would be something that they are actually accepted, that they can transition. That would be just an example. It's not specifically stating that. In this book, it's not about specific laws, it's just in general. Then the second one that is important is love, it's called. So basically that you experience parental love and acceptance. That is actually very focused on like the first 3 years of your life. And then the last one is solidarity or social recognition, which basically means that there are people who are fighting for your cause and recognize you as an equal and would be there and stand up for you and your rights as well, which, you know, is amazing. And yeah, I really, really loved this theory. It felt very in tune with what I believe in, especially the part on like solidarity. It really once again showed me why is it so important that we are people who are solidar with other people, why solidarity is so important, why we should stand up for injustices and never stop fighting. So yeah, I gave this book 4 stars, read it physically, read it for my thesis. I can't wait to get to write about it. Like, honestly, I've been working on my thesis this week, and so far I have not yet reached a point where I can talk about this, but this is actually like the next part I will get into. So yeah, 4 stars for Axel Honneth, even though it was like a non-fiction, extremely scientific, sometimes boring book. Alright then, as the reading slump was hitting me full force, like train in the face, like crazy, I needed something to get out of it. And, well, there's, you know, only a few things that could actually get me out of a serious reading slump, and like the one thing that will get me out of a serious reading slump is reading a book that has me invested and engaged. So I did the only sensible thing I could do. I read Heaven Official's Blessing, Volume 2. Yes, this is it. This is it. I continued the series. I will read the next book next week, actually, and I am receiving the rest of the series for my birthday. Which is so exciting. I'm so happy. And I will probably be, you will see a lot of this, because I plan on getting through those at like a non-reasonable speed, let's just say it like that. And I'm just telling you, like, I love these books. I love this story. I love the way it's written. I love the characters. I love what's happening. It's just a real happy maker for me. I get through book is 380 pages. I get through this in 3-4 days, which is very crazy for me. This is the kind of book where I will go out of my way to read it. I will literally take it everywhere and just read it every time I have a minute to do so, which not many books do to me. What is this about? So in the first book, we kind of followed our main character, who is a god, who has fallen, who has ascended again. Say like that. We follow him in the present time, and now in this book, it focuses on more time in the present at first. We get the Gambler's Den arc, it's called, but basically our main character is going to this ghost city, and he meets the Ghost King, and he is trying to figure out what's going on in the Heavenly Court. And the interesting thing about this story is every time something happens, we kind of uncover things that happened in the past, 300 years ago, this and this happened. So it's kind of a narrative style that always gives you background information. All of a sudden you get info. And then in the second half of this book, we actually travel back in times 800 years before our guy was actually lifted into godhood, when he was just a mere mortal and just a crown prince of a whole kingdom, and kind of learning about what he did back then. I will just say it like this. And yeah, super engaging, super fun. Love the dynamics, love the characters. I gave it another 4-star. I can't wait to read the third one. I'm physically holding myself back from reading the third one. I'm really excited to read all 8 of them. So this is my second read of the month, and I loved it. Then for the third book I read, as you may have realized, I went to the Buchmesse in Leipzig, Germany, and for that I had 2 books I wanted to read for it, and the first one was The Buffalo Hunter by Stephen Graham Jones. The reason I picked this book up is because Stephen Graham Jones was actually in Germany at the time. He signed this copy of the book, even though I couldn't go to his book reading. If you want to hear more about this, check out my Leipzig vlog. I uploaded it 2 weeks ago, I think, and I will link it down below. But check it out. I love it. It turned out so well. It's a video I come back to just to reminisce it in the memories, because it was so amazing. I had such a great time. But anyways, The Buffalo Hunter, well, I've heard many good things about this one before I picked it up. Actually, online, I googled it and I read mixed things, but Elizabeth from Plant-Based Bride, she loves this book. And what can I say? I think it lived up to the hype. I rated it 4 stars and I really, really liked it. So I read it part, but then I also listened to it as an audiobook for the other parts. And yeah, it's a vampire story, but a very unconventional vampire story. It was very, very interesting the way Stephen Graham Jones made his vampires. So the book is part what happens in the present, where we have a female lead, and then it is also diary entries, which in one part are the diary entries of her great grandfather. I think that's enough greats. And then also there are chapters that are also from his diary, but they are telling the story that he's been told by this guy who is an indigenous person in the USA and is telling him his life story. And yeah, it's very interesting. At the same time, there are also murders happening where people are just found and they're completely skinned and everyone's confused what's going on, and the face is the only part that's not skin. So it's also a horror book, of course. Although I must say the horror was not so creeping up on me, but it was creeping up on everyone involved. I really loved the ending. The last bits of this book, amazing. Really amazing. I also loved how Stephen Graham Jones told this vampire story, this horror story, but very much the grief and the pain of the indigenous people who were and are in the USA was very well tied into. I could really feel the emotional attachment to it and how that was such a core part of the story, even though it was never that directly mentioned. It was never oh, this book is about that, but you could just feel it is about this pain and suffering and about this massive loss of people on one side, but also of history, of culture, of land that was lost. It was so interesting, so insightful, and yeah, really liked it, and I gave it 4 stars. I read it completely in Leipzig. I started in the train and then finished it on my second day there, and yeah, really, really good read. I recommend. Then next up, we have another book I wanted to read for my trip to Leipzig. And the reason I wanted to read it was because the last time I was there, I bought a book by someone who lives in Leipzig, studied in Leipzig, I think, as well, and is definitely like a scholar in Leipzig. And I saw her book in the feminist bookstore, I think it was, and I was like, oh, this sounds interesting. I wanna read it. And oh my, this book was amazing. It was such a good decision to pick this up back then, and I don't understand why I didn't read it sooner. So the book is only available in German, and it's called Mein Vater, der Gulag, die Krähe und ich, which means my father, the Gulag, the crow, and I. Oh, where do I even begin? This book brings so many different things together, and it's just done it brilliantly. So maybe I just go by what's written on the title. So we have my father as like one part. So the book is not divided into parts. In each chapter, all 4 things are somehow explored, I felt, or at least like within 2 chapters, all 4 themes will be reoccurring. But yeah, so on one side, it's about her father, so it's kind of a biography or a memoir of her father, who grew up during World War II in Poland and joined the underground forces there, the liberation forces, to keep Poland as its own country. So on one hand, he was obviously fighting against Nazi Germany, but then after 1945, they were also fighting against the UdSSR. And that's how we get to the Gulag. Her father was detained and brought to a Gulag in Siberia, I think. He was in multiple ones. And she tells kind of the story of what he went through there and how he lived with that and what he told her about it, but then also connects it to her own life. And then the crow is a crow that she is raising. So I will go crow and I will take this together. So she has COVID, and she has long COVID, and is living in like a tiny home, like a container home, but more of a off-grid situation where they decide to live in community. That's kind of the vibe I got. And so she just lives in like her own homestead, and then there's this crow who can't fly, and she kind of nurses it and becomes its primary caretaker, and the relationship between her and that crow is also very interesting. And then about her in general, she's a lesbian who grew up in Vienna, lives in Germany, and has conservative parents, and kind of talks also about like how her father then, who she loved so much and admired so much, how he dealt with her being a lesbian, and how she would question him and the things he stood for because he wouldn't stand for her and wouldn't tell like people who she was. And I just, this book, it really touched me because in one way it was a history lesson on an aspect of history that is not talked about a lot, specifically Polish history under the communist regime. And then also it kind of talks about her and the queer experience and growing up and figuring out who you are and what you want to be and what you want to stand for versus like your heritage, and not being able to go home anymore because the way you live your life would not be accepted there. Then tied in with the grief as well of losing her father. And yeah, it was just really, really touching. I loved to read this. And also maybe on the writing style, it was extremely stream of consciousness, so there were barely any periods, usually a period only at the end of a chapter. Chapter was 1 to 3 pages. I love that, the short chapters. I love to just follow her thoughts and see how they like go, because maybe you noticed, I'm a very stream of consciousness person too. I just jump from one thought to another, and I just really, really liked this. And yeah, I ended up giving this book 5 stars. Crazy! A 5-star read and a very unexpected one. But yeah, this book touched me. I felt it came to me in the right moment, and amazing. Really, really amazing book. If you speak German, read this book. All right, and now let's get to the 5th book, the 5th and final book. I do not have it. It's actually funny, I read 4 physical books this month. That's crazy. I usually read a lot on my e-reader, right? Anyways, yeah, the last book I read was an audiobook. I finished Ship of Destiny by Robin Hobb. It took me 3 months, but I finished it. And what can I say? So, Ship of Destiny is the final book in the Life Ship Traders trilogy, which is books 4 to 6 in the Realm of the Elderling, or something like that it's called. Anyways, I finished this series, which I've heard many good things about, and I loved book 1, I loved book 2, and I also loved book 3. Now, I do have some issues that I would just briefly want to talk about. So the first thing is, I'm just very surprised that in a book that has 1,000 pages and romance is not the main focus of it, Robin Hobb managed to not give me 1, but 2 miscommunication tropes for 2 different couples. And if there's one thing I hate, it's miscommunication. Pisses me off. So yeah, that's kind of my gripes with that. And then also, I've been fighting with myself. I think it could have been shorter, but then also, I felt like all of it was necessary to kind of get this feeling that I got when the last 30% hit. Because let me tell you, those last 30% of this book, crazy good. Actually, when it all came together, I couldn't stop listening. I was like, oh my god, it's so good. That was really amazing. And I get the whole build up, why it was necessary, but then I was also could it have been shorter? Maybe. There could have been things that could have been left out, I guess. I mean, there's always things you could leave out. I feel every character arc made sense to me. I wished, there would have been more after the ending, which is crazy considering the audiobook was 45 hours, but I still felt can't I know more? Can't I know, the happily ever after? Can't I know? Yeah, I would have loved that, but it's also fine that we don't have that, let's be for real. No, it was good. It was good. I did like it. I loved how it all came together. Would I do it again? Probably. I don't think I would reread those, but I would again read a trilogy that has, over 100 hours of listening time. I would do that again. But honestly, I need a tiny bit of a break from this long per book, I would say it like that, epic fantasy, because I was just listening to that for 3 months. You know what I mean? I was in this world for 3 months. But yeah, we'll see how long I'll manage before starting Lord of the Rings. Because I think that's the next big thing. Or I have some other things that I should be reading. But yeah, that's that. I rate this book 4 stars, which means the whole series. I rated every single book 4 stars, which means it's a 4-star series, I guess. It's a good series. I liked it. There are some issues, of course, but I think it is unavoidable to have some issues in a series that long. There will be something I don't like, but I don't think it is grave enough for me to dislike what happened. Also really political in the last book. Damn. Anyways, that's my 5th book, which means we have come to the end of this video. It is April. I will repeat this again. So it's my birthday tomorrow in a week. And I'm planning on doing a birthday video. Not on the birthday, but the video that comes after this one should be birthday themed. Where I will, maybe take you through my birthday week. I'm not someone who celebrates a lot. Let's be for real here. I'm not a big celebrator, at least not this year. I plan on celebrating big next year. We'll see how this will go. But what I will do is I'm planning on reading Heaven Official's Blessing in my birthday week, the 3rd one, as a build up to my birthday, because on my birthday I will be receiving some more Heaven Official's Blessing and maybe some other books. We'll see. Maybe I'll also buy myself some books as a birthday gift. Who knows? Then I'm also planning, I'm not yet sure how this will go, but I would like to give you a quarterly update of my reading journal. So just a flip through of the first 3 months and showing you how I'm doing in my challenges, what my stats are, etc. I'm planning on doing that. I'm not quite sure yet if I'll manage to do it in April. Maybe it will come out in May, but that is also part of my plans. And other than that, I think we have come to the end of this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you haven't already. Do it for my birthday, so on my birthday I can be happy and see oh, I gained some subscribers, so please subscribe. And I will see you next week for my birthday log, hopefully. I wish you all the best, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye!